boy. Good buddy. Yeah.
Who's that?
Vivian, your mic is open. Though I do appreciate the reassurance. I feel much better now.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Tonight we have Lynn Ballard that's going to be presenting. She's going to be presenting on Snowflake and setting up a clean data room.
Yeah,
Did I get
data
that
clean
right?
room. Data clean room.
Data clean room.
Mhm.
Yeah, dyslexic am I. But anyhow, welcome, Lynn, and thank you for presenting. And take it away.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and share, and I hope everyone can see the presentation screen, and then the
Sure
tabs
can.
up top. You can see the tabs too.
Yep.
Yes.
Great. All right. So I'm just going to stay in this mode because we're going to hop back and forth a little bit. Like Russ said, we're here talking about Snowflake and data clean rooms, but I am going to start with a few things. First off, by saying thank you. I know Thursday night during a holiday week, it's been a long week already, so I appreciate everyone who's spending the time to listen to me speak. Thank you so much. I can't see the chat from here, so if questions come up, hopefully someone will let me know. But
I'll keep an eye on the chat.
Okay, great. I don't know who all is on the phone to know if you've already are using Snowflake or using data clean rooms. I know this group kind of grew out of a SQL Server group and are expanding to other data platforms. So I don't know. I would love to know if there are people who are already on Snowflake on the line or who are already using data clean rooms, and if so, how long. I was at a Snowflake conference today, and they asked this question. There was one answer of someone who had been using Snowflake for 6 years, but everyone else there had been using it for 3 years or less. So, maybe put in the chat how long, if you use Snowflake, and if so, how long. I'd be curious to know. I've already said about questions in the chat. I can't see them, but feel free to ask as I go through things. I have put notes on my slides to remind me to ask if people have questions. But in addition to questions, if you have comments, if you have done things a certain way and found they do or do not work as I go through things, or if you have done things a certain way and found out they don't work, I would love for you to share that information as we go through. And then also, because this has a lot of scripts and issuing a lot of SQL statements, it's not very dynamic, but I've created some diagrams to show you kind of what we're doing. And I would just encourage you, when I get to those diagrams, I will point them out. You might want to take a screenshot. So when I go into the demo, you can kind of follow along. It might make it a little bit more interesting. And then the thing I'm going to say about this presentation is there's a little bit of an intro about me and the company I work for. We're going to talk a little bit about Snowflake, but then we're just going to jump into data clean rooms. And my goal for talking to you today is to show you that data clean rooms are a really simple way to share your data outside of your Snowflake instance, whether that's with another instance inside your company or to external clients. You can share your information directly and safely. So that's kind of what I want you all to see and want you to get out of this presentation. So we're going to jump into me. At Degreed, they kind of have this unwritten policy, or they encourage people when you start your presentations to show pictures of your families, your pets, and your latest vacation. We're not going to go that much into it, but I am of the age where this May I will have someone graduating from University of Iowa, someone graduating from high school, and a senior prom all within 10 days. Plus, I'll be shepherding 2 sets of grandparents around. So fingers crossed for me in May. For pets, I have volunteered with the Animal House Shelter for almost 10 years and fostered 20 animals and have wound up adopting 3 of them. So you might see them wandering around in the background. And then lastly, as far as vacation goes, all my eggs are in one basket for an upcoming vacation. You know, every time the Olympics comes around, people always make the statement that they would love to see like ordinary people participating alongside with the Olympians. The Paris Olympics has listened to this, and they are going to have various mass participations events after the Olympic events. And so I am doing my best to get into the mass participation marathon and in 2024. So if anyone's out there that can get me a bib, that would be great. But otherwise, I'm working. They have you do like certain running challenges, and I'm working on that. So that's those are the three fun things about me. As far as relevant things, I've spoken at a couple of the SQL Saturday events, but this is the first time I've gotten to speak to this event. I've been doing SQL Server or Azure SQL for over 20 years. I feel so old when I say that, but much like this group, I've kind of started to evolve and do more than just SQL. I've been working for Snowflake, I guess it's about almost 2 years, doing a little bit more in that role. So my experience isn't as deep with Snowflake, but I'm getting there. And that's really one of the reasons why I asked if anyone else out there is doing Snowflake. I would love to just kind of know other people who are doing it and who are working on it. I think that's always nice to have more of a community. But we're going to hop over to Degreed now. And this is our boilerplate. I am not going to read that word for word. I will just jump into our application, and I hope you can see it. And I'm really showing you this because I know that we have, as clients, we have several large Chicago companies like Allstate, State Farm. And the one thing that I really, really love about this is someone who goes to these events or reads people's blogs or does videos, you can save your learning into your collection here. And it's really, really nice to have this to refer back to as you're trying to learn more things. And as you put them in here, you can tag them with the skill or the subject area that you're learning. And I really appreciate having this almost of this index where I can track what I've learned. And then there's also back here, I love this little chart that gives me an idea of what kind of learning I've done by type of learning, but then also by skill. So you can, I can kind of see like, oh, like I do want to do more stuff like, you know, I haven't been doing quite as much as like, you know, SQL Server. And then the other thing I was going to point out that this is more of as an idea to give, as something to give you an idea of the kinds of information that we would share with clients. There is this pathway functionality, and as you complete pieces inside the pathway, it helps you to upskill your employees or become more rounded employees or whatever, you know, the goal of the pathway is. But you can see how a company might want to have information about what their employees are learning, what their employees are doing. I'm showing you this to kind of give you an idea of the kinds of information that could be passed through a data clean room. So that's all we're going to spend on Degreed. We're now going to hop over to Snowflake. And again, this is also their boilerplate. I would think most of us have at least heard of Snowflake. It is a data platform cloud. And I had all this boilerplate here. But like I said, I was at a Snowflake event today. And so I ended up taking pictures of some of their slides that really did a good job of, you know, encapsulating what all their offerings are now. They do have the data warehousing. I think you can see here that, you know, we've got data warehousing, they've got data lakes. But what I also found interesting today, that was the first time I had kind of seen this, was this, and I'm sorry, I should probably zoom in a little more, but there's this little Unistore here now. And what is interesting about Unistore is this is Snowflake's way of dipping their toe into the transactional database market. Unistore tables are going to be transactional tables that you can join to your analytical tables. And it's done just like, you know, you create table with a key. It's just like creating any other table, except for these are going to be called hybrid tables. I always appreciate the confidence of marketing people when they write, it just works. Because we all know it just always works all the time. But anyway, I thought that they're starting to mention this capability. They said it's not out in general availability yet, but it's coming. So I just envision that Snowflake is going to move more and more towards the transactional world. I just can't see why they wouldn't. And this is their start of it, at least I feel like. So does anyone have any questions as far up to here? Okay, I'm going to say take that as a no, but feel free to jump in if things come up.
Well, actually, I have a question.
Sure.
So you mentioned these hybrid tables. Would these be things that would be queried with SQL?
Yes. Yes. So it's just like like a SQL Server table. It's just like that, and you can then join it to. It's just like a SQL Server table, and it is meant for you to be able to run a transactional workload on it. And what they were saying was since this isn't general availability, they were encouraging you to think of things that you would need to use this for inside your enterprise. They're not, they didn't come out and say, don't use this on clients yet, but they said a good place to start by using these are internal things. And I thought that was really interesting that's where what they were encouraging, like as the first place to adapt this capability. But I just thought this was really interesting today. And so I took the slides I took the pictures and I popped them in the slides just because I thought this is something new that I had not seen before and thought it would be fun to share.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay, so I'm going to jump into data clean rooms. Again, we have this introductory boilerplate. But basically what this allows you to do is you have your tables, your client or your external partner would have the same table structure, and then you define how your table can be queried externally. You would set up query templates, and you would set up the columns that they are allowed to get data from. And then that data is then passed back over to their data clean room. Again, thankfully I was at this event today, and you can see here, like this would be our Snowflake, our whole environment over here. This might be a client's environment. And right now they have these shares where you can just share. Think back in linked server days. This is almost like a linked server in SQL Server terms. A data clean room would sit on top of that and provide structure and rules as to how this data could be queried back and forth. So it would be right down here where it says share asset. With a data clean room would almost sit on top of that. Anybody have any questions for that? Okay, we're going to go on. So we're going to
real quick, Lynn. Is the data replicated to another location that the client in this example would have access to, or are they actually querying like your data repository in Snowflake directly from their end through like you said, like a quasi link?
Yeah. So basically, like you create a share, and that share allows them to query your tables. But when we create this all, we are going to create rules as to exactly what queries they can run, and then what columns in that table they can pull back to their side. So they are querying your data, but they have to do it within the framework that you create. And the other thing that's interesting about this is when they query your data, the cost for that query is charged to them, not to you. So in your Snowflake credits, you would create this, but if a client queries, any client query that comes through, that credit is on their bill, not yours.
That's awesome. That was going to be my next question. So they pay for the compute rather than you paying for the compute. Thank you for the clarification.
No problem. Okay, so Snowflake walkthrough. When you go into Snowflake, we're going to go here real quick. Hopefully it will. I said real quick. I was just kidding. All right. So you, you would come into Snowflake. This is called Snowsight. It is what SQL Server Management Services is to SQL. They have, I would say, like within they used to have a different interface, and I got used to using that interface, and now they are becoming, they are really moving people more and more to Snowsight. So when you start using Snowflake, I don't even know if you have the option to use the old interface anymore, but this is what you would see when you log in. One thing I will mention is for Snowflake, you can go and sign up for a free trial for, I think it's like about 6 weeks. And the nice thing is it even gives you like the high end, I think it's called business critical capabilities. And if you want to create a data clean room, you have to have it's business critical or the tier right below that. You can't do that in the basic tiers. So if you want to replicate this, when you go in and create your trials, get the highest level tier. It's all free anyway, but you also only have it for 6 weeks. So you can see here, I only have 17 days left of my trial. But so let's go into, so you would have these are your worksheets. These are the places where your query is. We'll get to that in just a minute. You can also create custom dashboards to just create visualizations of your data. If you want to see what your data looks like and you don't want to have to put a Tableau or a Domo or a Power BI, anything on top of it, you can do that straight in here. As far as data goes, you can see we have, I already have 2 databases. The Snowflake sample data, we'll come back to that. But if you are can't come from the SQL Server world, you will remember the old Northwinds database, and that's kind of what this is. We have private sharing, which is when like this allows me to access Snowflake's data, and then I can share out my data with other people or other people within my organization. But this marketplace, they were really hyping this today, and I do think this is very interesting. If you need data that is like, let's say you are going to be like some sort of like, let's say you rent surfboards in California, you might want the weather data to know what days it rains. If you do a lot of business, you might want business in Japan. You might want Japanese data. They have all these different marketplaces available where you can come out and you can buy data sets. And if you go into these data sets, like they refresh, that some of these they'll tell you like they're refreshed, they're from, basic data points. There's all different data sets out here that you can just buy and then use in your applications, depending on what you need. And you're only charged when you actually use them. It's not a or at least most of them, it is not a charge like so much a month. I think it's you're charged by the amount of data you use. And so they were also really hyping that you can very easily take your data and use it as a product. And that's one of the things that they were, when you create these shares or when you share data outside of your organization, you can actually sell your data out here. We're not going to do that today, but I thought this was really interesting as far as being able to get other data sets. Then activity here, you can see, like I was already doing some setup here, but this gives you an idea of all the queries, that have been run, and it gives you an idea of like, how long did they take? What was actually going on when those queries ran. There's copy history. Task history is kind of like a SQL Server job agent. And then down here we have the whole admin. You can see warehouses, security, users and roles, all that kind of stuff. Does anybody have any questions about this? Because if not, we're going to go ahead and go into a demo. But I don't know if anyone has any questions before we start that.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Does this run on Snowflake's cloud?
This right here, yeah,
Yes.
this is on their cloud. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
this is like just kind of you have your connection, your interface on your browser, but then what's running behind here is on their cloud.
Okay, but you could also have this this on-prem or in your own cloud, so to speak.
I don't think Snowflake does on-prem. And I'm not sure about on cloud. I think their whole thing is that they are a data cloud. They don't have
Okay.
on-prem offerings.
Okay, so it's used their cloud or nothing type thing.
They were saying that you could get a private instance of their cloud today.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Any other questions? Let's see. We did the walkthrough. So we're just going to go ahead and jump on into the demos then. Let me go back to my worksheet. So let me get my keyboard up here. So when you create your account, you have an account identifier. And for us, it's this KU97008. So if I run this, you will see it's KU97008. I happen to know, because I might have practiced my demos once or twice, that the other account that I'm using as an external account is this KJ335. And I am setting those as the parameter values. And then I'm just echoing those back here. Wait, I forgot to give you, I forgot. I made a mistake here. I wanted to show you all this. This is the diagram of what all we're going to do here. And when I had said I was going to give you all a chance to do a screenshot, this is what I was going to give you a chance to do a screenshot of, because it is a much more visual diagram of the 15 easy peasy steps we're going to take here. So while I'm talking, if you want to take a screenshot real quick and go right ahead. But you will see that most of these things are steps that you would have already taken. You probably already have a source database. You probably already have some table that you would be using. So these three things, this Snowflake sample data, that's only just to give us data to work with. In a production environment, you wouldn't have that. You would have your source database in your source schema. You'd already have a populated table. If you wanted to create a data clean room, you then create your data clean room database. You would create a shared schema. And then in our case, we're going to create this table that holds the query templates. And this is what defines how our clients can query our data. They will have to use one of these templates or they will not be able to query our data. In this available values table, this holds the columns that they are allowed to get data from. If they want a column that is not in this table, their queries will fail. And then we'll also have this request status that will allow us to see what queries are coming through and where in the process those are. We're also going to create an internal schema, and in that schema, we're going to have this table called approved requests. So as queries come through, we'll have this log of requests that our clients have made. And then after that, and this is what really threw me for a loop when I started working with Snowflake, is we have stored procedures and stuff like they're written in JavaScript, not SQL. But we will have this stored procedure that validates our customers' queries and makes sure that the queries that are coming in are from this query templates table and are asking for this available values. And so we'll run that, create that stored procedure. And then we're going to create a row access policy for our customer table that takes all of these things, basically takes all of these things and this is what defines how the customers, this is basically what puts the rules in for our customers to be able for how our customers can access our customer table. Then we'll create the share, and then we will allow our customer's account access to that share. So hopefully you've got your screenshot, or if not, it looks like it's a lot. It's not really that much. But like I just showed you, we have our variables populated. I have already created these roles, and we are going to start down here where we create our Snowflake sample database. And I am just going to go ahead and create that, and you can see it already exists. Maybe because I practiced this once or twice. And then we're going to give ourselves some privileges on that table. And then we're going to go to this role that I created. And we are going to go ahead and create the warehouse. And then we're going to use our warehouse. And then now this is our source database. So this would be just like the source database that you probably already have. You probably have a customer, you probably already have a database somewhere. It probably has a customer table or some other main tables that you use. And so one on client source, you just think of as your main database. And then we have our source schema. And then this is the command that where we're going to create our customer table. And I'm scrolling down here for you to see we are pulling in data from the Snowflake sample data. And again, this is like Northwinds. And we are only pulling in 1,500 rows because we don't want to be here all night. You get the idea. So we're going to create that table. And it's working its way through. We've got that created. All right, so this is now we are to the point where this is just like a production environment. This is our mock-up of a production environment. You already have all that. And now you've got this great idea of let's create this data clean room. So you start off by creating a data clean room database. And we're going to create our shared schema. And now this is our table with the query templates. Now, this is how we're going to populate those query templates. So each query template has a name. And then you can see in here, this is basically what our query template would be. Now, looking underneath, or like further into this, we are coming from our customer table, and we are joining to the other party's customer table, and we're joining on email address. Now, I know in the world of production, you probably wouldn't join on email addresses, but it gives you the idea. You get the idea here that we're only going to be passing information on emails that the customer already has. So we're going to go ahead and throw that in our table here. And we put that row in there. And then we're going to put another row in. This is the customer overlap. We're going to call this customer overlap enrich. Again, we're joining on email addresses. And we are going to be, this basically gives you a chance to aggregate some information. So we're going to put that on into our customer query templates too. Now we're going to create our available values table. And again, this is the table that defines what columns our customers are allowed to get data from. So we've created the table, and now we're going to allow them to get city. We're going to allow them to get county, state, postal code, education status, purchase estimates, and credit ratings. So those are the, 7 columns there? 7 columns that they're allowed to use in their queries. And now we're going to create this request status table. Now we're going to create our internal schema, and this is where we are going to be doing all the validation for the queries that come through. We have our approved query request table, and this is where we have our JavaScript store procedure. So again, this was new to me because I have really just been a SQL person. I haven't really done a lot of JavaScript, but conveniently for me, this procedure is already out there and already written, and I can just very conveniently copy it into here. So basically what this procedure does is it takes in the query and it goes through and makes sure, we're going to validate, they're putting this query into a temporary table. They're going to make sure it matches, puts the query request into the temporary table. They're going to make sure it matches what the time on this timestamps, because we're not going to let people query from times in the future. You have to query from times in the past, which seems like a pretty standard way to validate. We're also going to validate what the fields they want. That's why we have the table that this is going to go into and check on. And then we're going to iterate for each column that they want to return back. And then we're going to make sure everything matches. And then let's see, I think this is where they actually build the approved query based on the columns that they want. They're making sure that this query doesn't already exist in the approved query table. And then finally down here, they're actually going to run it. So we're going to create that stored procedure real quick. And there it is, it's created. Now we have a row access policy. And so basically what we're saying is for this row access policy, you have to be an account admin, or you have to be in this role, or your query has to be in this approved query request table in order to run. So that's the policy. And now we are applying that policy to our customers table. So now on customers, you have to be an account admin or a party one role, or your query has to be in that table. No one else or nothing else can touch our customer table. And now we're creating our outbound share. And we're so close to being done. Hang tight with me, guys. We have our...
Sorry, just a quick question.
Sure.
So in normal SQL land, you set up user groups and then or roles, and then you give those roles access to certain objects. Is this sort of backwards then, where you give the object access to certain roles?
You can do it the other way. Typically when you log in, you have a role when you log in. And like, so I'm trying to think of the way like we do it is people are added to a role. And then when you log in, you know, you would set your role this way, or your application would have a specific role as when it connects in. Does that answer your question? I mean, you could do it the other ways. This is the way, you know, they just set it up here.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it, because I typically haven't assigned, the object.
I know. I understand. I think this is set up this way to make it like to know it's just like this one role or that one role. Underneath that, then you know, groups can be assigned to these roles to make it. But for the purposes of a simple demo, that's kind of what it's done this way. Does that make sense?
Sure, no problem. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So let's see. We had our data clean room share. We have our source share, and then now we've just got, like the sign says, so much security granting here we've got to do that allows the shares to use all the stuff we just created. And I would assume most of us here understand like the grant selects and the grant use on these various things. And it is pretty self-explanatory, but I just want to make sure if anyone has questions about it, you know, you feel free to ask. Okay, so this is where, you know, up top where I said we knew our client's account identifier. This is what we're doing here is we are allowing party two's account ability to access this share. We're giving them rights to it right here with this. And we're giving them rights to both the source share and the data clean room share. And then we're going back to our party one role. But just a note here, again, like how I said, to use data clean rooms, you have to be on the business critical or enterprise account levels, those two tiers. Again, just if you want to set this up and try this for yourself, when you create your free account, make sure you pick that you are on business critical or enterprise. So, but we've made it through our 15 steps. And so we're back, we've gotten all this done. So does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay. All right, so now we're going to create our client environment. It's going to be really similar here, but it's a little bit less. So you saw how we use the Snowflake sample data. We're going to create our source database and our source schema. They're going to create, we're going to populate our data. It's not going to be the same as what we have, because then you'll see in the demo how we can update different pieces. Our client's going to get really crazy and create their own data clean room database, and they're going to create same shared schema. In that shared schema, they're going to have a table that holds all their query requests, and we're going to turn it on so that it only holds data for the past 14 days. They're going to create an internal schema, or we are going to create, not they are, we are going to create that internal schema. They're going to have another JavaScript procedure that generates their queries. And then we are going to also go through the same thing as far as creating the shares back and forth. So before I jump into the Snowflake for this, does anybody have any questions? Okay, so it's this is a good time, hopefully, to get a screenshot if you want to follow along on a visual. Otherwise, I'm going to go over here, and we're going to go back up to. Looks just like what we did on our side. Snow site doesn't change depending on who you are. It's very, it's just like SSMS. But we are now on this different account, and we are setting our variables for the different party accounts. I'm going to echo those back. I have already created these roles before I got on. But we're going to go, and we're just going to kind of do the same thing that we did on the other side, where we're going to use the Snowflake sample data to create and populate our customer table. And we're doing that by creating a warehouse. We're going to use that warehouse. We're going to have our source database, source schema. This is not anything different than we've done. But now we're going to create our customer table, and you'll see like the numbers are a little bit different, and when we get to updating, you'll see how some things are updated and some things aren't, because it's a join. We're going to update based on matching data. Okay. All right, so now we have our customer data. So that's just like they're already running in production. They already have all this there. They're running away, and now again they've got this crazy idea to create a data clean room database. And they want to have their shared schema, and they're going to now go into that and create a table that will hold all their query requests, and it will allow them to track like what time did the query go in, what time did it respond, all that kind of information. This command just says we're only going to keep data for 14 days, and then the rest of it will age out. We've got our internal schema. And then again, we've got our JavaScript store procedure. And so basically this is what generates their queries and sends them over into the other data clean room. Let's see here. I'm just trying to go to the part. Yeah. So this basically watches the request status. And as the request status table gets updated, it will then take the data and then put you can see the query request was approved, it'll be executed, and then that data then gets put in the resulting table. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create that store procedure or function.
Quick question.
Yes.
Logically, this would be being done by the other company, not by you.
Right,
in their
right. We are
right?
pretending we're in another company right now. Yeah. I mean, you can always give them the code, but if help their other Snowflake administrator out. But this would be done on the other side. This wouldn't be done on the same side. I created the share. I have done a little bit of granting of the access of the shares. This is the glamorous security execution, the security statements that have to be run. That is and that's it. How like all these grant execute is such a glamorous part of our job. I guess that isn't everyone, all the database people know how glamorous this is. So, okay. We are now done with the second demo. So basically what we have is each side has a data clean room. And let me go back here and show you in the database data. You now see we have our source database. We now see we have this data clean room database. And if we go into the shares, you see we have our shares here. And then they've also shared, like I can now see their data clean room share from all this back and forthing we've done. No, we want to go here. Okay, so that's where we are. Now like I just showed you, we can see things in there in our environment. Wait, where was I? Okay, we're right here. We need to go in and create the client's data clean room database in our warehouse from that share. Basically, it's acknowledging that it exists. And then we're going to create a table stream on their query request table. And we're going to create a view to pull data from that table stream in. And basically, a table stream is like as data changes, it gets put into the stream. And we can see as query requests come in, we can then process them. So let me go back here. We're going to go to this one. Okay. So I am just acknowledging all of our different account identifiers here. Go back here to me. Okay, hold on. Oh, party 2. There we go. Let's try that. Oh, shoot. Okay, hold on. We want to be in the party 1 warehouse. There we go. All right, so now, yes, now there we are. We have set our account identifiers, and now we can run that and see that. And then we're going to go back to being account administrators for just a minute. And we are creating these from the shares, and we are giving ourselves rights to them. And we are creating this table stream. And again, a table stream shows you data that has changed. And then finally, we're creating a view from the table stream. And our side, our side is now all set up. Go back here. We've got our data clean room. Now, so now this is the last piece that has to be done. We're going to do that same step over on the client side. We will go over here. We got make sure I get to the right warehouse this time. Start off right there. And okay. And so now we're setting these shares up. We're going to create or replace the party 1 data clean room database on the client side, giving them rights, giving ourselves rights to it. And then we're going to create this source database through the share, giving ourselves rights on it. And that now we have a role. So let me go back here. So now both of these sides are set up. Everybody has access to everybody else's data, but now we have also set the rules up as far as how you can query it. So normally a client will request updated data. We will run the validation process, and then aggregated table from our side will be put into the table on their side. So what if the client wants to make a different request without asking permission? We're going to do that, and you will see how it will fail. And then, like, let's say the client's like, oh, but now I really need this column, because we know, like, things change and people ask for different things all the time. So we can edit the query, or we can edit, add the permitted columns into the available values table. And then the client can pretend like everything's all good. Like I've been doing this all along and it's all beautiful. So let me just run you through what we're going to do here. And again, if you want to take a screenshot of this, that's fine. It is, I get it. It's a lot of steps, and it's Thursday night. So we're going to be on the client's data warehouse, or a party 2, and the client's going to run this generate query request procedure to populate this customer accounts table using a template. And then inside our data warehouse, all we have to do is run the validate procedure. and that's going to check and make sure that what they are asking for is something we will permit them to do. That will run, and then over on the client side, it will be like magic. The data will be there because everything was within the rules, and then we'll now be able to see this customer counts table. They will also then, we'll also, pretending on the client side, we will then try another query, the other template. We'll run that. And again, we're going to validate that. Just run the validate procedure. We'll come back over here. We'll get an approved message. And then we're going to try running on a query of the columns that we're not allowed to use. And then you will see how they get declined. But we'll fix it for them because that's the kind of organization we are. And the client will kind of run this again. We'll run our validation procedure, and the query will work, and our client will be happy. We will be happy. Everything will all be good. So before I jump into this, does anybody have any questions? Okay, so here we are. We are on the client side. Let me go all the way back up here to the top. Okay, so we're going to go into our operational role. Let's have this. And we've got this. I don't think you actually need this. I'm really just doing this to show everyone how you can, again, identify which side is which. So here's our first step of our demo. We want to get this customer counts table populated. It doesn't exist right now because we're going to populate it with the results from our side. So basically, we are running this query. We're sending this query over to them using our store procedure. So we are using the right role, and we are in our data warehouse, and then we're going to run this procedure. And we are at saying, this is the table we want our data put into. This is the template. And these are the columns that we want to be populated. And remember how we had that validation on the timestamp? This is the timestamp we want data up to right now. And then we're going to say we need this data within 5 minutes, or we're taking our football and going home. So we're going to run this over here, and it's waiting. So we're going to come back over here, and we're going back up here. We're going to our role, and we're in our data warehouse, and we are now going to validate this query. Oh, hard to, well, see, I shouldn't have skipped it. Okay, let's go back up here. Okay, ready to account. There we go. Okay, so now the validation procedure is running. And if we go back over here, see they're getting the results, and see it's all great. The query was approved, and the data is now available in this table here. So if we scroll down here now, we should be able, or actually go back up here. Where was my select? See, now that data is now available in it's in our data clean room database under our internal schema. We have this aggregated data available, and this shows for the customers that we have jointly, who lives, how many customers live in which city and which postal code. It doesn't give this party two cannot see the customers who are not the same as who didn't join on the email address. So that was our first demo. There that was. Okay, so now we're going to try populating like the customer details. That table, again, it's not there until we run our query request. And again, we're going to populate the customer details table. We're going to use this template to do it. We want to get back education status, purchase estimates, and credit ratings up until the current time step. And we're going to run that right now. And we go back over here, and we're going to validate this. We're now to step 5. We're going to run that. And we validated. We come back over here. And it's beautiful. Like we now once again have the data that we want. If we go into customer details, voila. For the matching data, we now have these columns that we asked for. You know, education status, purchase status, credit ratings. we don't share this customer here, right here under this email address. We don't have them in the other database. So this wasn't updated, but this customer here was was the customer that we share. And so we could then share these columns with them. So now we're going to purposely fail a query. We're going to use this customer details again in the same, we're going to use this customer, we're going to put the data in the customer details table. We're going to use this overlap column. And this time we're going to ask for gender and marital status. These were not columns that we approved. So they're going to run this. And we're going to come back over here. And we are going to run our validate query just like normal. You're getting the hang of this. And when we come back here, you can see it was not approved. And it even gives like this little explanation that they're not available. So we're going to go back over to the worksheet and like, let's say the customer's like, but I really need this data. And we're like, okay, we'll give it to you. So now we're putting these columns in the available values table, and that allows them access to the data in these columns. And now we go back and we tell our client, like, good news, we fixed this for you. And they're all excited. And so they're going to run this same query again. And we still got to validate it, but this time it will pass because we put the data in the table. So it runs. Oh, look, it's there. And now we'll even run our customer details. And we go over here to, we should see gender. Yes, gender and marital status for our matching customers. You know, we don't have, if you remember when we populated the customer table, we didn't use exactly the same customer IDs to populate both of those, but it gives you an idea of how, you know, for the matching customers, you can now share that information outside your organization. Does anybody have any questions? Does everybody see how setting this up with a client gets you out of the FTP business? You don't have to share data via FTP files anymore. When you set this up and you share data this way, you can get rid of all that kind of work. And when I saw this, that is what I thought of, is like, this would very much simplify sharing of the data back and forth. But it also does it in a very structured way, and in a way that's agreed upon ahead of time to make sure that your data is safe, or you're not sharing PII, or like in degree data, in the degree world, maybe you only want to share the counts of people who have completed certain classes or certain pathways. You can see how this would then take yourself out of the FTP business. So any questions? Because if not, then I'm just gonna move forward a little bit here.
Well, I can, I'm sorry, Lynn, excuse me.
Go right ahead.
I can definitely see how this would get us out of the FTP business. However, it would, all of your clients or customers would have to be educated in Snowflake.
Right. That is true. You would have to engage with them to get this set up. Now, interestingly enough, when I was downtown at the event today, they were talking about, I was talking with someone about like, oh, I'm really interested in the data clean room, blah, blah, blah. They are also talking about creating data clean rooms where you would have your Snowflake data clean room, but it could function with outside of Snowflake. So your client wouldn't necessarily have to be on Snowflake. I think that is coming. Right now they're talking about this as like sharing like Snowflake to Snowflake. But I think from what they were saying, that being able to share this information in a data clean room and set it up to where both parties don't have to be on a Snowflake platform, I think that's coming.
Okay.
Can the customer create new queries on their own without having to reset it up every time?
So the queries have to be agreed upon and put in that query template table. And so they can't, like, let me see here. I was going to see, I was going to show, but let me, party one DCR data, party one DCR database, shared schema dot, I don't think they can even query that, or like they can, you can see like what's in the shared schema, but they can't see what's in the internal schema. You can't just loosely query that.
What I was thinking more is, can they join another table of theirs into that query without you having to reset everything up?
Oh, like when they get their data, when they get their data back, you know, in this customer details, I think that's when you can join in. Because if you look in these query templates, you had to, see if I can scroll down here. See, you have to have the join on the email address. Now, I haven't played around with where like one of their tables joins to the customer table and then they join to our table. I haven't played around with that to know if that would work. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't. My
major concern is, you know, do we have to do this every time they have a new query? We're going to get an awful lot of extra work on our hands.
Well, I would think that the majority of the time, at least like in the reporting, like where I am in the reporting world, most of the queries are very routine. Like you're updating the same data sets on a regular basis, you know, whether it's hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, you're sending the same data sets over and over. Now, you could always have a client who wants something different every day of the week. You know, that could very well happen. And then you could create the ways to make this a little bit more user friendly. But the whole point of this is to make sure that they are querying, like they are using your data within the prescribed way.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate, there's a lot of security here, and it's, I'm just concerned how cumbersome it could become in certain cases.
Right, like you wouldn't want this to be like a total ad hoc query system. That's, I wouldn't think that's what it's primarily useful for. Like this is really for, like think GDPR.
But yeah, if it's kind of replacing an API, or, you know, you're FTPing a file a day, well, they're now pulling it through the API using this technique, it will be useful.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like the primary use case that I'm seeing here is like it caters more to clients that are a little bit more savvy in terms of data and analytics. So it's more that you're revealing like a raw data set in their data clean room to them, and then they can do whatever manipulation they want to it, rather than like a bunch of bespoke post aggregate reporting where they might have a different request every day of the week.
Yeah. Any other comments about that, or any other? I don't know if other people have used this in different ways out there, or questions.
I definitely like the pull model better than the push model. So in that case, I think it's superior than just say FTP, for example. And then the other person's comment around APIs, it does essentially seem like an API, just in a different format. So yeah, I could see this doing really well.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna hop back to my slides then. So we kind of already did questions and did the what do you think. if you are interested in learning more about this, oh, I have 2 more slides. I don't know where they went. I had a slide with all the resources for you. I do not know what happened to my last 2 slides. So basically what I wanted to say is Snowflake has a ton of resources out there. I have not found the same like user group structure that I've seen in the SQL Server world, but they do have like really great documentation. They have these quick starts, which is where this demo came from, where it's a really nice setup where they have the code for you, and they have a video of someone walking you through what you are doing and how to set things up. And again, like I said, that's where this code came from. Right now, they are also doing this Data Cloud World Tour. It was in Chicago today. That's what I went to today. But in November, they're also doing this. This is called the Data Cloud Build conference. If you just go to Snowflake Build, you can find it. I did notice when I looked on it, and hopefully I can find it again here, they have a whole session coming up on that Unistore, which I was talking about is their whatchamacallit. It's their transactional, their toe dip into the transactional database waters. But all of this will be online, and if you have things that you're specifically interested in, you can sign up this way. Snowflake also has their summit. It's in June in Las Vegas, but that's one of the ones that costs money. This one is free, and that is really all I wanted to go over to. And I see I am exactly hitting my hour limit. So thank you to all of you who asked questions to bump me up to that. But if other people have questions or want to know more about this, I had a little slide with my email address and how you get a hold of me, but we'll go back to me here. You can find me on Twitter under Widow Page, or you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. If you're on Degreed, feel free to follow my learning profile. But if there's any other questions or anything else I could do, happy to help. If you want the slides and the scripts, reach out to me in one of these ways. And otherwise, thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone sitting through all this. And that's kind of all I have.
Well, thank you, Lynn. That was a great job.
No, thanks.
That was great, Lynn. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Does anybody else have anything?
Thanks, Lynn. That was awesome.
Great.
I knew I was waiting for Nick to chime in on that.
I just had a high level question. So you were in charge and CTO or whatnot. Why would you choose, say, Snowflake over some other database solution, or when would you?
So I think a lot of people went to Snowflake. I think there's a difference between what CTOs pick and what technical people pick. I think a lot of times certain tools get picked because they're the shiny new kid tool, right? And you get to be able to say oh, we have Snowflake, or oh, we have data science, or oh, we have this. What I will say about Snowflake is I do like how easy it is to scale your warehouse compute size up and down. It is supposedly much cheaper. I do like how I was showing you how they have that marketplace and the data sharing. They were talking about how they're really going to be building out and working with people to build out these data meshes, and actually provided a definition of what that was. That's kind of beyond the scope of data cleaner, but they did show how they are really architecting this with the idea that data is a product, and data can be shared amongst organizations and can then be also used to inform decisions. What I thought was interesting was, they were talking about these data meshes, and I thought data meshes are to data warehousing what microservices or breaking the monolith is to the database. I thought it was very interesting that they're talking about like, oh, you don't want it in all one database. You want data as a product, and then you can combine them all together as how you want and call. And I thought, where have I heard that before? So I'm not really answering your question too much, Christian, but okay. And if you like, I took more slides of this data cloud world tour that they're doing. It was also interesting. I will say the data cloud world tour is interesting because it felt very much like Snowflake hasn't used their event budget for 2-ish years. So they're using it now. And they had a lot of sessions there today, but then they also had like all the really nice amenities that as like a technical person, like you go to things and you're like, wow, they have good food today and they have good snacks and like the handouts and and this isn't about like using Snowflake or not, but I did think it was interesting how much like the amenities that they had out there today at this event. They had someone dressed up as a polar bear with the big Snowflake logo walking around handing out stuff, and I was kind of like, you all haven't used your event budget for 2 years. It's obvious, like anyway, they've done very well for themselves if you can afford to have a polar bear walking around passing out buttons and stickers and all that kind of stuff. It was amusing to me.
Okay, so you would choose Snowflake because of the polar bear. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, I'm all in on the polar bear.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know how to evaluate that because I haven't been at that level. I am at, I was kind of at the level where, hey, we're on Snowflake. This is what you need to use. Is it easier than Azure, like the Azure's version? I don't know. I don't know that it is. I do know that they're very conscious about building it to make it easy, to build it to be easy to use on top of Azure, on top of AWS, on top of Oracle. They were talking about Netezza, like, making it easy to work with all these systems. But if I were at that role where I had to like evaluate one or the other, I don't know that I have as much information as far as costing or requirements to really be able to answer that.
No, but I mean, all I'm saying is like feature-wise, you would definitely consider them.
Oh, definitely consider it. Yeah. Any other questions? I don't have a picture of the polar bear. I was just very amused that they spent money on it.
All right. Well, so I'm sorry I put you over your time limit.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
I know you were aiming for that.
Well, we had questions there. So, anybody else? Anybody else have anything? Otherwise,
well, any company that can put themselves in a situation where they can have their CEO running around with a bear behind, they're definitely not taking themselves too seriously.
Yes.
I was going to ask. I wonder who from the Snowflake organization took turns wearing the polar bear suit.
That's a good question. I don't know. It was interesting to see who was doing the presentations. Like they had the actual product manager for Unistore was the one who was giving the Unistore presentation. They had a couple sales engineers doing presentations. They had like a cost, and I forget what her name was, but basically she had this background in costs evaluation and costing strategies, talking about how to make Snowflake, how to get the same capabilities out of Snowflake and spend less money. So they had people from all levels of the organization there presenting today.
But yeah, I could see a a great use for this where I work, in that I work for the OCC, as some of you know, and we have clearing members, and we could use something like this to distribute each clearing member's data to them, so they could do their own, what if analysis or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it gets you a way to provide data to people, but you don't have to actually run the queries. Because, like, also, how many times is like someone like, oh, you're a database person, can you just run this query for me real quick? Like, we just need to know X, Y, and Z. And now you're like, it's right there. Go do it. Which, well, there's always going to be some measure of like ad hoc querying that has to be done. But this would give a client the ability for the standard things that they need day in and day out. They can go do it themselves.
And the benefit of that is the costing structure is that the client is paying for their queries, not you paying for them.
Mm-hmm.
True, exactly right. Although in setting up to getting the data from you to the clients, I guess you would incur that cost. But then once that data is on the client's DCR, then whatever they process on there, that's their dime, not yours.
Right. It's a one-time setup fee to get access to your table, and then every time they want to access data from your table, they're paying for it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Lynn, I'm stealing your thunder.
Oh no, that's okay. I was just like, I hope. Seems like I think people see like what I saw when I was like this, like, oh, this would simplify so much. Granted, there's a few set of things you have to do, and you need to be careful about how you set up the security and what you allow clients to use. But it could save, and you can even the validate queries, or if you are the client needing data, you can schedule those out. You can make that happen on an automatic basis. You don't have to be it's like SQL Server. You don't have to be the one clicking the button. You could schedule that.
But you mentioned one other thing, Lynn, and that's that you didn't know of any Snowflake user groups.
And I'm so bummed. I had those two other pieces, two other slides, and I don't know. I must have accidentally deleted them, but I did go on to Snowflake's. Like, they have a user group page, and they had a user group in Chicago, but that user group hasn't met since before COVID. So I would assume at this point, maybe they're not an active group. I did, for those of you in Salt Lake City, which I know at least one of you might be, if you're interested, it looks like the Salt Lake City Snowflake user group seems to be more active.
I was just going to say that that might be a fine opportunity for you to start a user group for Snowflake.
Maybe, yeah, and that wouldn't be, after May. After I get my kids graduated, after in 10 days, like that 10-day period where I'm shipping everyone off. Sometime in the future,
when you're free.
Yeah, when I have all my free time.
Yeah.
Well, you've got Ross here to show you how to do it, so that's a help.
Yeah. Yes, you do a great job. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I got started in this by Frank Gill used to be the president of this group, and he was looking for 3 people to take it over, and it's I got into it to give back.
Mhm.
This, you know, has been very good to me in terms of my career, and you know, a lot of people over the years had helped me along. So this is why I got into it. But anyway, it's yeah, I'd be happy to help you to start that if you were ever interested. But
In the future.
yeah, no, I get it. Well, next month, well, I'm going to stop the recording first.